So, I'll start this off by saying that when this happened, I was a senior in high school and was just shy of turning 18. It was prom night, the night that everyone had been waiting for from the first day that the plans for the night came to be. I had a sparkly dress, one that I thought was the most gorgeous dress that I had ever seen. All my guy friends were in full suits, and we were all feeling like we were on top of the world. I mean, why wouldn't we? This was the peak of our last year of high school. We were all dressed like we were upper class, all while living in pretty much the middle of nowhere in the Midwest. The night was young, the music was loud, and everyone was having a blast. The school had gone all out, transforming the gym into a fairy tale ballroom, which was actually the theme that our class had agreed on. Everything was pastel pink and blue. There were balloons, the tables were all decorated. The entire room was like this bubble of pure bliss and excitement. And through all of this, we were all completely unaware of what was brewing outside. The weather forecast had mentioned that there could be some nighttime storms, but this was the Midwest. Thunderstorms in the spring are as common as a trip to McDonald's. It happens more or less once a week. No one really thought much of it, least of all me, especially while I was getting lost in the moment with my girlfriend. We were all enjoying the night, having a lovely time, when the power kind of flickered. It wasn't anything major, just a bit of a dim and then back up. A couple of girls jokingly screamed to add to the drama of the moment, and we all laughed. Until the lights dimmed again. The music stuttered and then all the lights just completely shut off before the emergency lighting kicked back on. The entire room was filled with this sickly greenish hue as we all just kind of looked around confused, like, are we really going to lose power on prom night? The room slowly did grow quieter as we waited for things to come back, but that silence was broken by that disgustingly loud, piercing wail of the tornado sirens. That first blast of sound was enough to make me feel like my heart was going to stop. It's not that I hadn't heard them before, they were just always so loud and unanticipated. Our vice principal, Ms. Haig, came over the intercom. Her voice was normally stern and kind of aggressive, but when she came over the speaker, her voice actually sounded slightly shaken. She told everyone to remain calm and to proceed down the stairs and into the south hallway, which was basically the band and drama hall. We all looked at each other, and after a few nervous laughs, we realized that this was pretty serious. That change in atmosphere was jarring. From a night of celebration, we were suddenly plunged into a night of uncertainty and dread. We all made our way down the stairs and into the band hall. The teachers that were helping with the night were guiding us down and into the specific places down in the shelter. We all huddled together, an uneasy silence settling over the group. The air was heavy, filled with a palpable fear of what was happening. I didn't realize how freaked out I was until my girlfriend asked if I was okay, and mentioned how tightly I was squeezing her hand. This was supposed to be a night of fun. A night of us all just letting loose and spending quality time with those that we'd come to know, but there we were, wondering if this night could be our last. As the storm raged on, you could honestly feel the building shake. You could hear the deafening roar of the wind. Time seemed to slow down and minutes stretched into what felt like hours. And there were moments when the whole building felt like it shuddered with this intense pressure, followed by several moments of quiet. We all held our breaths, praying, holding each other, and just waiting. After a bit, the all clear did come over the intercom, but that dreadful feeling definitely stuck around. Going back up and emerging from the school, it felt like stepping onto a movie set from some post-apocalyptic film. The once familiar parking lot was unrecognizable, strewn with debris, cars flipped, and what could only be described as a small taste of what happened throughout our town. Houses were torn apart, trees were uprooted, power lines were downed, and people's lives completely destroyed. Miraculously, there were no casualties. Just a town full of shaken and distressed people, and a high school full of teenagers trying to piece together how this night that was supposed to be a moment of youthful innocence could turn into the most terrifying night of our lives. All of this was a harsh reminder of how things can quickly take a sharp turn, how life can take that sudden turn when you least expect it. Even now, years later, I can't really think about that night without getting that anxious feeling that I felt in those hallways. It was meant to be a night of celebration, joy, one last hurrah with everyone before we graduated, and yet it was a night of devastation and stark reality. I'll never forget that moment when my mom pulled up to the school and saw me, and how she started bawling when she wrapped me in a tight hug. We were one of the lucky ones in that our house was mostly untouched. There was minor damage to the roof shingles, and we lost half of a tree in our backyard, but most weren't so fortunate. Some lost cars, some whole houses, and we all came together as a community offering hospitality to those that lost their homes and hoping to clean up and rebuild as quickly as we could. It may sound dramatic to some, but that night honestly felt like a clear line had been drawn. A line between life before and life in our town after. After all was said and done, we did still have a graduation ceremony, and we all still had to apply to our colleges, and we still had to finish out our finals. Yet, it all seemed so trivial compared to what we had gone through. It's been years since that night, and our town has completely regrown and rebuilt. And thankfully, we haven't had another tornado rip through our town like that. Plenty of harsh storms and several tornado watches, but nothing like that night. I'll finish this out by mentioning that the only reason I thought about typing this story up is that my daughter is now in her senior year, and her prom is coming up. Even worse, the class actually decided on fairy tale ballroom as the theme, so that hit a bit close to home for me. Now, odds are, it'll be a night like any other and it will go off without issues. But part of me is still a bit paranoid that something could happen.